go to the next question that was provided by IMI real quick. The next question is, if you could make one change to the educational experience of the Black community, what would it be? And we're going to start off with Miss Rachel on this one.
I think I would just say having more of a community. And so, and again, I guess I'm speaking as if we're talking about in a formal education setting, but I would just say having a Black community, period. Because I went to a PWI for both my bachelor's and my master's, and in most of my classes, I might have been one of two of one of five, and it wasn't until one of the first positions that I had outside of college, I was the liaison for my one of my alma maters and their Black alumni association, and I realized that my experience wasn't unique. A lot of people would come to our events and were like, wow, I can't believe this many Black people went here. I never saw them around on campus, and I think that for the students who do link up and are a part of communities, I'm talking especially of those who go to predominantly white institutions, but I think just being able to link up with your community and talk to and vent and talk through situations with people who are likely experiencing some of the same challenges that you are would increase the retention and the likelihood that you will push through, because it might be easier for some of us than others, but I like to think that I'm not too far removed from my years in college. And the truth is, when you're in college, most students aren't thinking about as deeply as we are in this conversation. They just trying to have a good time. They don't want to do anything that's quote unquote boring. They want to be accepted and feel community among their friends. And so I'll even connect this to Sinclair's comment about some of the challenges that we see with Black and also female representation in the STEM degree programs. I think part of that is because you really got to be, an individual to stick through that, because we're socialized in so many ways not to pursue those career paths, and they're not easy. And when things get tough, if a lot of your peers aren't following a similar path, I think you're just less likely to push through it. And I think as adults, we have the tendency to kind of stick our nose up and say like, well, they just need to be independent and push past their peers and what they're doing. But when most of us look back and see how we operated back then, a lot of us were driven by what the people within our arms reached, the closest 4 to 5 people, what they were doing. And to circle it all back to the answer to that question, if I can make one change, it would be finding a truly effective ways of creating community among Black students in the college setting, because there are sometimes there's resources and groups, but really finding effective ways to draw the students in, it can be a challenge for some of us.
So the intentional establishment of Black community on those campuses will yield way more effective results for our students. Community is big. I think that's Ms. DJ. Okay. Yes, it is. It's huge. It's huge. We're a communal people by nature, and we thrive off of that collaborative nature. And I think I couldn't have said it any better, Miss Rachel. Thank you for sharing that insight. Mr. Josiah, do you want to hop in here? Any thoughts? Any suggestions?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm big on representation. You know what I mean? And I don't mean just at the HBCUs, but I mean representation at every university. And I wish there was more of us, you know what I mean? And not just more of us as students, but more of us as faculty, more of us as staff, more of us as administration. Because, like, Queen Nikki was talking about earlier with her child, you know what I mean? What I strongly believe that wouldn't have happened if they had more Black, teachers, you know what I mean? People who have dealt more with Black children, who know, because, there's been times where I've stopped little kids that I didn't even know from fighting, You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, y'all, nah, that's not cool. Hey, you go that way. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? And I'll talk to both of them in different ways. Hey, listen, don't you ever let nobody put their hands on you. And this person, hey, don't ever put your hands on nobody. You know what I mean? There's a different way to be able to approach it. So for me, I personally just wish there was more representation. I wish we had the luxury of walking into a classroom and knowing that all eyes aren't going to be on you. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know that you're one of two or one of three or one, you know what I mean? And feeling like whenever there's an issue about Black people, you're the delegate for all Black people, or you have to be the spokesperson for all Black people. So for me, I think that if there was just one thing I could change, it would be, having more representation. I wish that we had the luxury to have to choose between, do we want to go with the snotty nosed Black teacher, or do we want to go with the cool Black teacher, or do we want to go with the the terrible Black teacher? Do we want to go with no, I like this Black teacher because of the way he dresses. I want to be like, I wish we had that luxury, but we don't. And in reality, we just say, I want to go with the Black teacher. Where's the Black teacher at? I don't care what they teach. I need to be in that classroom. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I think that we're seeing the effects of that, of not having so many options, and I'm not having options. I think our children are seeing the effects of it. Our children are saying, listen, I've been suspended from school since I was a kid, starting at, first grade, you know what I mean, or fifth grade or second grade. And every year I've been suspended or getting in trouble. This is not a place where I'm welcomed. But I see every time I look at entertainment, every time I look at a movie, Michael B. Jordan, or every time I look at, music, you got, Jay-Z and Lil Wayne and all these other people, and Lil Boosie or whoever. Every time I look at, a television show or whatever it is that regards to entertainment, basketball, football, they're accepted there. In fact, they're expected to be there. It's not just they're accepted, they're expected to be there, and they're expected to be great. Whereas in education, they're just expected to show up and deal with whatever happens to them. So for me, I'm big on representation, and because I feel like, there were certain things that I was, that I missed out on because I didn't have those opportunities to talk to a Black male teacher and explain to them why I feel like I don't feel, like education is a place for me. I don't feel like a classroom is a place for me, because the way that I talk is not the way that most people in a classroom would deem appropriate. It's not the way that most people from a professional environment would deem appropriate. But I'm still in those meetings now, and I'm not changing the way I talk. I talk the same exact way. And what that let me know, that what a teacher was trying to tell me was the right way 20 years ago was not the right way. It was your way. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not how I talk. It takes me back to, the lyrics, and I always quote this from Nipsey Hussle, where he says, "Know he a genius, but they can't. Know he a genius, but he can't save him because they know he a genius, but he can't say it because they left him no platform to explain it." You know what I'm saying? Like, the things that I know, I knew it before I got my degree, but I just didn't know how to articulate that information to y'all because y'all don't know what it's like to be me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I already knew about socialization as a child. So if I would have had people who look like me, who understand where I come from, listen to that, they would have said, yo, this kid's a genius. This kid's thinking about sociology in the third grade. This kid's questioning, the power dynamic in the fourth grade. That's so dope. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to saying, no, sit down and shut up because I told you to write this piece of paper. I told you to write this essay, or I told you that that's what you need to do. So representation to me is the most, I probably have to talk too long, but representation is where I think it needs to be changed.
Never need to apologize. Can you drop in bars, man? And I want to, kind of continue that notion of representation, right? And not that tokenization, right? But like authentic representation of who we are, and the need to have, Black men and women from all walks of life in that space, right? And not just one that fits your mold that you're comfortable with, as the Eurocentric standard that you're comfortable with, right? Because oftentimes that's something that I run into when I'm talking to students, is they might have that one, Black faculty or administrator, but they don't really rock with them, you know what I'm saying? And we need more people who can identify with these students and talk their language, you know what I'm saying? And may not have come from the exact same background, but at least have that willingness to sit down and listen to them. Because oftentimes our students aren't listened to, right? If you actually listen to them, they'll tell you what's going on. They'll tell you how they need to be taught. They'll tell you, but they get silenced so much. Like you said, when you think about a first or second grader, Black student, often lively, want to engage, want to experience everything. And by the time they get to, the 10th grade, 11th grade, they usually in the back of the class, silent, don't want to talk because they've been indoctrinated to not be acknowledged for who they are and how they show up in the classroom. And so, yeah, this is powerful, man. Is there anything that anybody else, Devon or Miss Nikki or anybody want to contribute to this point before we go on?